Have you ever stopped to think about how one single brand could totally flip an entire global industry on its head? Well, today we're diving into the story of Zara. This is the company that didn't just sell clothes, it fundamentally changed the speed, the logic, and the very rules of fashion itself. Let's get into how they did it.
To really get Zara, you first have to understand the sheer scale of its parent company, Inditex. We're not just talking about one brand here. This is a global empire of 8 major fashion retailers, making it one of the biggest apparel companies on the planet, and it was all built on the exact same revolutionary ideas. And that, right there, is the big question of this whole explainer. This isn't just a story about t-shirts and jeans. It's a story of incredible vision, of operational genius, and of a founder who saw a massive opportunity that literally everyone else was missing.
So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll look at the rules Zara completely rewrote. Then, we'll get into the secret formula that powered the whole thing. We'll trace its explosive growth from just one store to a global empire. And finally, we'll explore its lasting legacy on fashion.
Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. Our story doesn't kick off in Paris or Milan, but in mid-20th century Spain with a young man named Amancio Ortega.
See, Ortega's journey didn't begin in some fancy design studio. It started on the shop floor when he was just a teenager. And this became his real-world MBA. He saw up close what customers actually wanted, what they were willing to pay for, and this is the crucial part. He felt their frustration, waiting months and months for new styles to finally show up in store. Ortega saw this huge disconnect in the market, which this slide illustrates perfectly. You had two options. On one side, exclusive high fashion. Gorgeous, but painfully slow and way too expensive. And on the other, you had affordable clothes that were, let's be honest, often out of date and pretty poorly made. He realized millions of people were stuck right in the middle, with no good choices. And this was Ortega's light bulb moment, his revolutionary insight. What if you could give people the latest styles, the stuff they see on the runway, but at a price they could actually afford? The goal wasn't just to sell clothes, it was to completely democratize fashion.
So how did he actually pull it off? This brings us to the real genius of Zara, a business model so different, so radical, that it left the entire industry just scrambling to figure out what hit them.
The secret Zara formula really rests on these 4 interconnected pillars that all work together in perfect harmony. You've got unparalleled speed, total control of the supply chain, data-driven design, and a really clever use of scarcity to make you buy. So let's break down exactly how this engine works. First up, speed. And wow, this chart just says it all, doesn't it? While the rest of the fashion world was just plodding along on a 6 to 9 month cycle from design to store, Zara could do it in as little as 2 weeks. This wasn't just a little bit faster, it was a complete paradigm shift. They weren't trying to predict what you'd want next season, they were reacting to what you wanted right now.
So how is that incredible speed even possible? Well, the answer is this key business concept, vertical integration. While all their competitors were outsourcing everything to faraway countries, Zara built an empire by owning almost the entire process themselves. By controlling design, manufacturing, logistics, and their own stores, they got a level of speed and flexibility the industry had never, ever seen before.
And this is where it gets really clever. Zara's stores weren't just places to sell clothes, they were information-gathering machines. Every single day, store managers were sending feedback and detailed sales data back to headquarters in Spain. So the designers weren't sitting in an ivory tower guessing what might be popular in 6 months, they were reacting to what was flying off the shelves yesterday.
This table really highlights just how radical the whole philosophy was. The old model was all about forecasting and taking huge risks. You'd guess the trends months in advance, produce massive batches of clothing, and then spend a fortune on ads trying to convince people to buy it. Zara flipped that completely. They used real-time customer data, made small batches to keep risk low, and instead of advertising, they just invested in the best store locations, letting the product and the experience do all the talking.
The final piece of the puzzle is what's called manufactured scarcity. Because they made small batches and got new deliveries twice a week, Zara created this powerful sense of urgency. As a customer, you knew that if you saw something you liked, you had to buy it now, because there was a good chance it would be gone tomorrow. This brilliant strategy meant they almost never had to have those big, costly end-of-season sales.
Okay, so you have this incredibly powerful formula. The next challenge, of course, was scaling it. How do you take a brilliant local idea and turn it into a global phenomenon?
This timeline really captures Zara's deliberate but absolutely explosive growth. From that one store in '75, they spent a whole decade just perfecting the model all across Spain. Then they started to scale. First just next door to Portugal in '88. But by the 2000s, it was a full-on global blitz, planting their flag in the most prestigious shopping districts from New York all the way to Tokyo.
And the genius didn't stop with just Zara. The parent company, Inditex, realized they could take this same fast fashion engine and apply it to totally different parts of the market. This led to a whole portfolio of brands. You've got Massimo Dutti for a more premium customer and Zara Home for furnishings, each one targeting a different niche, but all of them powered by that same revolutionary supply chain. So what's the ultimate legacy of this story? Why is the Zara model still studied so intensely in business schools today? Well, it's about a lot more than just clothes.
The lessons we can take from Zara are just profound. It proved that your supply chain isn't just a boring cost center, it can actually be your most powerful weapon. It taught the world that reacting to what customers are actually doing is way better than trying to predict the future with a crystal ball. And it showed that when you build a culture and systems that are designed for speed, you create an advantage that is almost impossible for your rivals to copy.
And that brings us right to today. Zara rewrote the rules for its time by being closer to the customer and faster than anyone else. So now, in a world of TikTok trends that explode overnight and AI that can literally design clothes in seconds, the big question is, who's going to be the one to rewrite the rules all over again?